What is up, everybody, here on YouTube? NinjaNick333. We are back doing it's now 14. That is correct. Round 14 is the round that comes after round 9 in Pokemon logic. Of the Arlington, Texas Pokemon Regional Championships. Yeah, I don't know why they skip the first, 3 rounds every day, but here we are. Looks like we got John Ang on the left. He's a really good player. He's been extremely consistent this season. And Grant Shen we have on the right. Looks like John is playing Lugia, and Grant is playing likely Arceus Duraludon. I do see Duraludon in there. Pokegear. It's, Duraludon is pretty favored, I would say, in this matchup, although Lugia definitely has the tools to beat it. Lugia's main options in order to try to beat this matchup are to attack with the Yveltal, of course, which just knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon. And then if Grant gets down Big Parasol, which it is likely playing in order to counteract that Yveltal, John's going to have to get into the Lost Blowers. Or Lost Vacuums, whatever they're called. I don't know. You guys already know. Looks like John starts with a Dunsparce, and Grant ended up winning the coin flip, which is actually pretty significant here in this matchup. You definitely want to get an energy on Arceus turn 1, and he was considering just passing there. I don't know if you can if there is a way to just get, it looks like he had Pokegear. But you can't play a supporter turn 1, so that is pretty unfortunate for him. Looks like he's going to Ultra Ball to get that Duraludon V. He was just going to end with 2 Arceus in play. Now, this is the line for John to win. You definitely want to start with just the Arceus, and you don't want to put another one down in this matchup, because that'll give John the opening in order to knock out 2 Arceus VSTARs and then 1 Duraludon using the Yveltal in order to win the match. That'll put him at essentially a 7-prize game, but that's fine as long as you have an out to the Duraludon. The Duraludon says that when it's a VMAX, it says that no Pokemon with special energies can damage it, essentially. And Lugia is, of course, all special energies. Yveltal's attack goes through that, being that it just knocks it out. It's an effective attack, and that Big Parasol is what prevents the effects of attacks. So it's a very interesting matchup. You definitely it's basically just whoever draws better, but on paper Duraludon should be favored if you just get one with a Big Parasol up front. And what's John gonna do? So we see Quick Ball from John here, discarding the Archeops. Obviously the best turn 1 discard. He's looking to eye up one of these Lugias. He's going to want 1 or 2 of those in play turn 1 here. He's also got to check to see if that Yveltal is in there. I do believe I see it. It definitely wasn't in the prize cards, and there's no way you're not playing that. Yeah, I did see it right there. He's just going through, identifying all his prize cards right now. I mean, John being as good of the player that he is, he definitely can look through his deck a couple of times and identify all 6 of those prize cards. That is a skill that I unfortunately don't have. I can look through my whole deck a couple of times and only be able to identify 2 prize cards. Not sure what they're talking about with the judge there. I mean, I guess maybe he's given John a slow play warning, but it's his first deck search. You can't slow play warning a first deck search, or at least you shouldn't be able to. So he's going for the Evo Soda, wow. I got my sleep in, I promise. The Evolution Incense. The Evolution Incense is going to grab an Archeops. Hopefully he has another card to use in his hand that will be able to discard that Archeops. And then he'll basically have the turn 1 that he wants. It was great that he started the Dunsparce if Grant had gotten the turn 1 energy attachment, because then you turn 2 attack with Arceus VSTAR. But it looks like the best thing Grant's going to be doing is a Trinity Charge to set up the Duraludon. So since the Dunsparce is what was started, that's actually hurting John a little bit. He's going to have to, looks like, commit an Aurora Energy to that Dunsparce in order to retreat it in a future turn. And he also has to discard another Aurora Energy, so that's already 2 Aurora Energies down. It looks like he is looking for more of a setup than just the one Lugia on the bench. I mean, if Grant plays, I don't know, like some sort of energy acceleration for his Arceus, you do want to get more Pokemon into play, like a second Lugia. And it looks like that's it, just pass. I don't know what kind of energy acceleration a Duraludon deck would play like that, but looks like we're getting a Marnie, 1 card going to the bottom of the deck for Grant. That is pretty solid. He's got the Arceus VSTAR. You want to save that VSTAR power for a time when you need a specific card. Like, say he missed that double turbo energy off the Marnie, that's when you want to use the Starbirth. You don't want to use that before you do the Marnie, because then you could draw into another double turbo energy, so you essentially just wasted your V-Star power. So it's always important to, you know, save it for later or just use it as your last action before you attack. And we do see that Trinity charge is loading up both the V-Star and the V-Max that are on Grant's bench. So that Duraludon is 1 metal energy away, and that Arceus is 1 double turbo away from both of those attacking. So honestly, a pretty great start for Grant for the Duraludon. He's even got the VMAX out. So John's definitely going to need to get his double Archeops in play this turn in order to, you know, threaten all of the Pokemon that Grant has in play. So V-Star power does come out. Summoning Star gets out 2 of those Archeops. And it looks like a Quick Ball getting rid of an Ultra Ball as well. Eyeing up Luminion. I think he needs to draw more cards here. I think what he's most likely going to be going for is a retreat of the Dunsparce into the Lugia, power that up with a couple Archeops, and just one-shot this Arceus. And then Grant's going to want to have to draw a Metal Energy for turn in order to attack with that Duraludon, and just hope that John can't retaliate with that Evital. But of course, if Grant has the ability to use that Starbirth like he still does, he has the ability to get that big Parasol the next turn as well. So as long as that Duraludon comes up with 1 Metal Energy and 1 big Parasol, that puts John on the back foot. So here comes the Primal Turbo on 1 of the Archeops. He's deciding which energies he wants to put on this Lugia here. It looks like he's going to go for double powerful, maybe? Yeah, double powerful onto the Lugia. I think he wants to set this thing up to be able to knock out the Arceus V-Star on a following turn as well. Because the Duraludon, it only does 220, so there's no way it can knock out this Lugia V-Star during essentially any turn ever. Second Primal Turbo coming out. A 3rd powerful colorless energy coming down. Okay, he's considering whether or not he wants to get that. I think you just do. I think you commit it. Because then this turn you can knock out the Arceus V, and then the next turn you can, like, boss up the Arceus V-Star, knock both of those out with the 1 Lugia, and then when that goes down, you can just bring up Evital and finish off that Duraludon. So we got the next few turns for John already planned out here. We got a V-Guard energy going down on the Luminion as well. I don't think that math is going to matter, so that's minus 30. Yeah, so Duraludon would still be doing 190. I guess it matters if Arceus is attacking, so that's actually not that bad. And here's that retreat, as I said, and he's just going to knock out this Arceus here. Oh, and it looks like he's got another Archeops in his hand too to just discard away. You really don't want that sticking around in your hand. It's just a dead card in your hand or deck at this point. So you want 2 Archeops in the discard pile turn 1, or at least by turn 2 when you use your Summoning Star. So the deck normally plays 4 copies. So that's why you will always see them have extra ones in their hand, but then you want to make sure you discard them later in the game so that they're just not sitting around being dead draws in case you get Marnied or judged. Yep, so that knockout comes out. Grant's deciding which Pokemon he wants to promote. It's got to be that Duraludon. You're going to want to put that up with a Metal Energy and a big Parasol. But it looks like he's going in with the Arceus instead, just feeding that straight into John, so that John does not have to work much harder in order to get those extra 2 prizes there. Considering what he wants to play first, looks like he's going to go for the Evo Incense. Almost played the Pokegear first. This does thin out 1 dead card, essentially, out of your deck, so that's slightly more likely to hit the Pokegear. So if you get something like a Research, he can even discard this dead Arceus VSTAR and then not have to worry about drawing into that or having it in his deck at all for the rest of the game. So deck thinning is always super important. You want to have multiple copies of things like these Arceuses in your deck, just so that you can see them when you need them. But then, of course, then you're going to see them when you don't need them as well. So learning how to deck thin is very important. I know in a previous round we saw, I think, an Ultra Ball getting an Archeops and then another Ultra Ball discarding that Archeops that you got. And even things like that late in the game are pretty good. It looks like he's getting the boss's orders off this Pokegear. That is really good here. Actually, a really good play for Grant would be to just boss up one of those Archeops and take it out. He still has that V-Star power available to him too with the Starbirth. So, and he already has the double turbo, so he doesn't even need to do that. So here he goes, he's bringing up the Archeops and knocking that out. And he's going to be able to accelerate at least 1 more energy down onto a Duraludon. It might be nice to get another Duraludon on your bench potentially as well. It would be really cool if a deck like this played Volo, so that if this Arceus was just to get damaged, he could just discard it away on the next turn. But we already know how much damage that Lugia V-Star is doing, so I don't think it really matters at this point. And we do see he got the big Parasol down on that Duraludon. I don't think it necessarily needed to go down on this particular turn, because there's no way John's going to be able to charge up Yveltal in 1 turn unless he has 2 Archeops in play. So it might have been better to just hold on to the big Parasol until the next turn. I don't think he needed to necessarily use that V-Star power there, so he could have held on to that. But of course, I guess if John plays Path, which he does, he actually has Path to the Peak in his deck, holy crap, then it was actually good to use the Starbirth. But it looks like we're seeing a Serena to bring up the Duraludon, and that is a knockout. Because of the Path to the Peak that John is playing, that actually shuts off Duraludon's ability. And because of all of those powerful colorless energies and the Choice Belt, John is actually able to just hit this Duraludon for a lot of damage, or possibly even a knockout. I think Duraludon has 330. I didn't notice if he got another powerful colorless energy on that Lugia at that point, but either way, hitting it that hard, that's pretty much game right there anyway. So Grant realizes that. He's like, alright, I scoop. As I've said before, it's a very counterintuitive card to be playing Path to the Peak in your Lugia deck, but it is really good in situations exactly like that, where you're able to take down a matchup that should be normally super unfavored for him like that, to where he can just not even need to power up the Yveltal. So honestly, great play by both players. Grant realizing as soon as he saw that boss, oh, I can get rid of that Archeops and make it so that Yveltal can't get powered up in 1 turn. But John's just like, nope, doesn't matter, I play Path. But now Grant knows that Path to the Peak is a factor going into the second game, so he might want to prioritize getting Stadium cards into his hand. Like that turn when he Starbirthed for the big Parasol, it might have been a good idea to also essentially Starbirth for a counter Stadium as well, but I don't know, at that point, you know John's got to be playing more than 1 Path to the Peak, right? He's got to be playing likely 2. Of course, it makes John's deck, in my opinion, a little less consistent, because it's got to be scary when you're going into a matchup against a deck that plays Path to the Peak as the Stadium, and then you have Path to the Peak as a Stadium. and then you just get locked out of your own summoning star. Looks like John gets a mulligan, so that's great for the Duraludon. You always want to draw extra cards off mulligans if you're Duraludon. Usually Duraludon is the one that's that's always doing the mulligans, because all they play is the Arceuses and the Duraludons, and that's it. And they do have 35 minutes left for these next two games. Looks like 2 Arceus in the prize cards for Grant. So as long as he started one of those, that's not going to be bad. But it looks like he actually started Eldegoss. And John revealing that he also plays Regigigas in this deck as well. Regigigas is a very interesting attacker. That can also one-shot a Duraludon, I believe, with Path to the Peak. So, you don't use Regigigas in this deck to use the Ancient Wisdom ability, you just use it to hit 300 damage on a VMAX. Very easy to charge up with a couple Archeops in play. But of course, since he started it, that thing has 4 retreat costs, so unless he plays something like Birdkeeper in his list, that thing is going to be stuck there for a while. He's going to be forced to attack with it. And unless he gets a Choice Belt, I don't think he'll be able to one-shot this Eldegoss, because it's only 150 if it's not a VMAX. So Grant does get down an Arceus onto his bench. See, I'm just going to keep confusing their names because they're so similar. That is something he definitely needs. He did discard a Metal Energy, you can see, so he likely has another energy in his hand to attach to the Arceus as well. Looks like there is a second Metal Energy there. He's going to Ultra Ball away, looks like a Marnie and a Duraludon VMAX. Usually these Duraludon decks play a 2-3 Duraludon line, which may seem a bit odd, but they usually also play a single copy of Single Strike Mustard, and you usually don't want to start the Duraludon either. So by having like 4 Arceus and then 2 Duraludon, it makes it so you're most likely to start Arceus, but of course in this matchup he did start Eldegoss. And you never really want to play more than 2 Duraludon down anyway. So, Quick Ball, getting rid of the Archeops yet again. The best start from the Lugia deck is to just discard an Archeops with a Quick Ball turn 1. And John's going to be doing his deck search again, making sure he knows what all his prize cards are. We do see that Choice Belt that he knows he needs in order to knock out this Eldegoss, although Grant does have 1 extra turn to be able to move that Eldegoss out of play, or at least to the bench. Looks like John is going for the Luminian V. His hand must be kind of dead. He's probably going to be going for a Marnie with that. Usually don't want to research this early because you'll have a bunch of energy. Yeah, he has 2 double turbos in his hand. You really don't want to discard those super early. They could be relevant later, especially for the Evital. If you want to charge it up in 1 turn with 2 Archeops, you need one of the attachments to be a double turbo. And a lot of Lugia decks only play 2 double turbo as opposed to 3 now. So, yep, he is eyeing up the Marnie. That goes straight to his hand. And that's likely going to be the next thing he plays. I think I did see that he had the Evital in his hand, so he might consider putting that down. It does make it a bit scary putting it down at this point, because then, of course, it's just a boss's orders away from being knocked out. So you might want to just Marnie it back to the bottom of the deck and then hope to get it later. So that's why you see him contemplating benching it so hard. He's like, you know what, I think I just need to make sure I have it. It is asking a lot for the Duraludon to have the boss's orders, because this deck is just like a brick city. Usually it just relies on just sitting on Duraludon and using the sheer power of it not being able to be hit in order to just eventually draw into whatever you need. especially since the Eldegoss was started. If he ends up having to discard a boss's orders for whatever reason, he's not going to be able to recycle one. Not unless he attacks with the Eldegoss, which is a potential. Eldegoss has a attack very similar to Luminion, to where it can shuffle itself back into the deck. With a double turbo, I believe it only does like 20 or 30 damage, possibly 10 damage. I don't remember what it starts at, if it's 30 or 50. But we are going to see a Quick Ball getting rid of a Hyper Potion. That's probably a pretty good discard. John's going to try to go for single shot knockouts in this deck, so the Hyper Potion isn't really going to be doing too much. And he is eyeing up another Arceus here. Keep saying Archeops when I mean Arceus, and Arceus when I mean Archeop. So, I kind of hope he's just discarding that or Marnieing it to the bottom of his deck, and he is. So he Quick Balled for that Arceus so that it does go to the bottom of his deck and he doesn't draw into it. So that is a good play. You definitely don't want to be putting that into play already. You already have 6 prizes in play, essentially. And the big Parasol is important to note that that's on the Duraludon already. So as soon as that evolves into a VMAX, which it hopefully will be doing this turn, that will force John to have to go in with an Evital with a Lost Vacuum in order to knock it out. I think starting the Gigas here in this scenario for John is actually pretty good for him, because that's something that he doesn't necessarily want to attack with in this matchup. It's a lot better for something like Mew than it is for Duraludon, even though it can hit Duraludon pretty hard under the path, but you usually want to attack with that Evital. So we do see the Starbirth come out. He searches his 2 cards. He gets the Trinity Nova, and that's going to power up that Duraludon on the bench. It looks like he doesn't get the evolution, though. So that could be pretty big for John to open up a window here. Looks like he does not have an out to a gusting effect, though. So he might have to just... It looks like he might just have to Evital now. Or actually, no, I think he drew the Serena for turn. He's thinking about discarding that, though. It looks like the Evital might come out just to knock out the Arceus, and that's not what you want to be seeing here. Although John realizes that the Starbirth was already used, if he can manage to like Path to the Peak and use Marnie, then it's entirely possible that Grant can't get into the Duraludon VMAX. You have to have a strong hand if you don't Starbirth into the evolution that you need, right? So he's got to have some sort of draw supporter, like a research in his hand. Looks like he attaches the Aurora Energy, discarding an Archeops, which is awesome, and then Marnie to put 0 cards on the bottom of his deck and draw 5. Marnie only has to put a hand to the bottom of one player's deck in order for both of the players to draw. So the Summoning Star does come out. We get double Archeops here. First one's going to come out. He's going to be charging up that Evital. Actually, I'm a little curious as to how much damage let's see, it is Duraludon. I know that it does, I think it does like 40 plus, let's see here. Oh, it does 10 plus 40 for each metal energy attached to that Pokemon. So, 4, 8. Yeah, so that Duraludon is only doing 90. So he would need an additional metal energy or the evolution in order to knock out the Evital. Obviously, he wants to go for the evolution. If he can evolve, have that big Parasol, and knock out the Evital all in one go, I mean, that's pretty perfect for Grant. Looks like John's taking his 2 prize cards with the Amazing Destruction, just blowing the heck up the Arceus VSTAR. We see a Pokegear. There is a Mustard. I don't know if he'll be able to discard the cards from his hand, though, in order to use it. He may. There is also it looks like a Raihan. I think that's the new Trainer Gallery art. Yeah, so the Raihan can get the Metal Energy back, and that will just be enough to take the knockout. But the Raihan also allows him to search his deck for another card, so he's likely going for the Duraludon VMAX. I think I probably personally would have put that Metal Energy onto the Eldegoss if I was going to be searching for the Duraludon. Just so that I have like an extra pivoting option in case something happens to the Duraludon. But, I mean, if the Duraludon does go down, you've basically lost the game anyway. So it doesn't really matter, just a slight optimization thing. Looks like he's going for a Ultra Ball as well, and he gets that Duraludon VMAX into play. Yep, looks like a double turbo onto the Eldegoss as well. So now that Metal Energy attachment, where that went, does not matter whatsoever. It is better on the Duraludon in this scenario. And now that Eldegoss can just come up at any point and just shuffle itself back into the deck, making the Duraludon the only Pokemon in play, with John not really having a good out to it. He really has to get into that path to the peak. I'm interested to see if he only plays one or not. So we see that Arceus' ability come in, Primal Turbo. He's going to be charging up this Lugia now. Yeah, so that's exactly what John needs this turn. He needs to power up this Lugia with as many powerful colorless energies as possible and get that path to the peak down. It looks like he's deciding not to go with the powerful. I mean, it's still a two-shot either way, most likely, so... ooh, he could get that V-Guard. Does the math matter on that? No, it would be 190 twice, so that's 380. So it doesn't matter for the math. But, I mean, at that point, you might as well just throw it down if you're not going to boost the damage with the powerful. Yep, we see V-Guard, Aurora Energy. So he's conserving all of those... So he's conserving all those powerful colorless energies, potentially for a Stoutland. If he's able to take a knockout with Stoutland on the Duraludon VMAX, he'd actually take 4 prize cards. And I do believe I saw the Stoutland at some point in his deck. We do see a Choice Belt as well. There is a powerful energy in his hand as well. He's going to have to discard some cards with Serena or something in order to just try to draw into that path, because otherwise, like, what's he going to do here? He's going to have to discard some energies. Yeah, so he's going to attach to the Luminion. I think that's perfectly fine. Conserve that energy. You can always use Luminion's attack to shuffle it back in anyway. Oh, and John's going to Serena up the Eldegoss, so he's going to take 2 prize cards this way. I mean, if John plays something like Echoing Horn, this is a really good spot for him, but I don't think Lugia usually does. Yeah, so I'm not sure what John's out is at this point, because now he's going to get that Lugia smacked pretty hard. And once that Lugia goes down, maybe John plays something like an Ordinary Rod. He can recycle the Yveltal, but he's already attacked with it once, and there's an Aurora Energy on the Lugia. I don't think there's a way he would ever be able to attack with the Yveltal a second time in the same game. Just very unrealistic at the very least. So honestly, Grant is in an amazing position right now. Just got to make sure that path does not come into play. I think John has like 6 cards in hand, so it might be wise to play that Marnie that he had, but you saw that he didn't really play any cards out of his hand on the previous turn, so you know that hand's dead, so you might want to just leave it instead of using the Marnie. You don't want him to draw into his out. So he is going to boss up an Arceus. That is pretty good, and just knock that out. Yeah, so again, great position for Grant. All he has is this one big wall, this skyscraper standing in John's way. Can John figure out a way to get past it? And honestly, in this game, I don't think so. Even if John ends up losing this game, they still currently have 20 minutes left, so John really needs to decide if there's a way for him to possibly get to a path to the peak in order to hit into this Duraludon right now. And if there's not, he should just be scooping it up and going to the next game while they still have the time for a game 3. Just like, searches out another Arceus. He's got so many energies in his hand. It'd be so nice to just have a Marnie right now. But, looks like there's only 3 cards in Grant's hand, and I don't think that they're very good. Well, the Colress is good. And you know he has the Colress. He got it off the Pokegear. So, searching 1 powerful colorless energy. Yeah, maybe you just want to thin your deck of energies so that you're more likely to draw into the path to the peak, as long as it's in there. And the Luminion comes down. Looks like he's playing double Luminion. That's actually a pretty good decision to be playing in a deck like this, to be playing double Luminion. It's really great against some of those stall options to where you can just continuously loop Luminions, and you can always search out Marnie every single turn against decks that, like something like that Zoro box deck, right? You put up Luminion, you one-shot them, and you put down Luminion while you have a Luminion active. You one-shot them while searching a Marnie and using it. And then you just put up a single prize, or they have to knock it out. You put up Luminion again, and you just keep looping that. So another Evo Incense. Doesn't look like there's any left. I see there's at least 1 path to the peak in there. John really needs to find it. I know he doesn't want to discard those energies out of his hand, but he does have that research now, so he's gonna have to do it if he wants any hope of winning this game. I don't even think you retreat yet. I think you play that research, hope you get to the path to the peak, and hope that Grant doesn't have a way to replace it. Because if you just retreat here and then you don't get it, you know, that's 1 less turn you can play the game. Grant still has 3 prize cards left. Yeah, I think retreating here before the research is a mistake. I think you need to play the research now. And he just passes. I mean, either way, I guess it's fine, because the Duraludon's not going to be able to knock him out. Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't just play the research and try to get that path to the peak. Maybe he only does play the 1. And he's afraid of not being able to one-shot this Duraludon. But unless he has all 4 powerful colorless energies on this Lugia, he's not going to be able to one-shot it. Yeah. He needs to have all 4 powerful colorless energies and the choice belt in order to one-shot Duraludon with the path to the peak in play. So I think that's why he did that. He attached the 1 powerful colorless that's in his hand. I think he has 1 more, so he might be playing this research this next turn to try to hope to get into the path. So He's going to quick ball. He's going to look through his deck yet again. Get a Charizard to thin that out. And can John do it? Because at this point, the game has progressed another 4 minutes since I would have considered it scooping territory. There's the path. He's now gonna Ultra Ball, looks like. Evo Incense again. I don't think there's any targets left in there for that. Yeah, he's got 2 Path to the Peak that he's playing. We see that there's still 1 in his deck left. So, I mean, this is still fine. As long as Grant can't bump this Path to the Peak, and as long as John has 1 more energy left, the Lugia will go down on the next turn, but John will be able to finish off the Duraludon with that Arceus. Counting how many cards are left. He's going to Choice Belt that. And then he's just going to attack. Leave the stadium in play, please. You have the option to discard the stadium. Yep, so we've got 1 powerful colorless energy and 1 choice belt, so that should be 270. Let me see the Colress come down. He does have the Hyper Potion, so that actually, the fact that he did attach that metal earlier could make that, yeah, and he has the Training Court as well. So now that he has Training Court, he can, yeah, he can heal off. He can put 2 of those metal in the discard and then Training Court to bring 1 back and attach it. And, yeah, I don't think there's any way for John to win at this point. Yeah, he just concedes. Yeah, so that, again, that was 6 minutes that John spent still playing that game. So I think that, there's not much time left now. There's only 14 minutes to play game 3, and that's before shuffling here. So there was definitely an out for John to win, but I think he needed to just play that research 1 turn earlier. But as always, make sure that if you're enjoying, you subscribe down below, comment and like and whatnot. Follow me on Twitch when I stream sometimes. I got Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and all that. It's all linked down in the description below. So yeah, so now they have 1 game left to play. 13 minutes left. They are still shuffling. This is a little scary situation for both players. I don't know if there's going to be a way for them to finish the match in that much time. But it is possible. Usually the extra 3 turns you get at the end can sometimes be enough to close out a game. So, yeah, and John's fully aware of how much time is left, because I don't know if he has a watch on. That might just be a bracelet. I think John usually wears a watch. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like he has a watch on. Now, let's see if there's anything important prized, like Big Parasol or Evital. Yeah, no, it's pretty decent prize cards overall. Nothing super important. 1 Arceus V is prized for Grant, but yeah, it looks like he started it, so that's perfectly fine. Especially since it's so high up in the prize cards, you don't really want to search it anyway. And we see the Regigigas start yet again from John. That's 2 games now where he started Regigigas. We are going to go for the Evo Incense to grab. Guess what? The Archeops, you would have thought, right? And then we quick ball away the Archeops. Again, who would have thought? The plays in the Lugia deck can tend to be pretty cookie cutter in the first 1 to 2 turns of the game. You always want to do the exact same thing, It's actually like that with a lot of decks, like the Duraludon deck as well. You want to attach an energy to an Arceus and get down to Duraludon. Since he's going second, he wants it to be a double turbo so he can Trinity Charge, and it looks like he does have that in hand. So Quick Ball gets the Lugia. You definitely want 1 to 2 Lugia in play turn 1, so that on turn 2 you are able to Summoning Star with the VSTAR. It looks like he has a Capture Energy as well. I might consider putting that on the... do you want to put that on the active? Yeah, this is a bit weird. He might just put the Twin Energy down on the Regigigas. Yeah, so he's putting the Twin Energy down on Regigigas and passes. This is so that he can potentially retreat, or he just needs 1 Archeops charge to start attacking with that thing. So we are just going to see the Duraludon come down, the double turbo, and the Trinity Charge. And that's all that Grant needs this turn. Next turn, he is going to need an Arceus V-Star and or a Duraludon V-Max. But until then, this is the perfect turn 1 for Duraludon. It looks like he's also checking his prize cards as well while he's in there doing the deck search. Until you start shuffling, your deck search is not concluded. And you're always allowed extra time on your first deck search in order to be able to identify your prize cards. It's actually odd. In some games, like Dragon Ball Super, I believe, your deck search has to be like as fast as possible, and you're not allowed to like check to see what was prized. I know it was like that for Kaijudo as well, when I used to play Kaijudo, when that was still a thing. RIP that game. Yeah, you would have 5 shield cards, and you would not be, you would be able to deck search with certain cards. There weren't a lot of cards that would let you deck search. But if you did, you had to immediately grab the card that you were looking for, and then you couldn't do anything else. They basically gave you like 10 to 15 seconds for a deck search. Alright, so it looks like Ultra Ball getting rid of Pumpkaboo and Manaphy. Don't really want either of those in this matchup, so that is perfectly fine. Little disappointing that it's not an Archeops, but I think he already has 2 in the discard pile, so it doesn't matter. And he is going to use Summoning Star, get out those 2 Archeops. If you are playing against, say, like a Lightning deck, and your Dunsparce got knocked out turn 1, you can always Summoning Star that back, but then you are playing with 1 Archeops down, so it's always fun to be able to decide to bring back different things with your Lugia instead of the Archeops, but just remember that it's always optimal to get the 2 Archeops. So, if John does 2 powerful colorless energies and a choice belt to this Regigigas, he can take a 1-shot. Otherwise, he needs, I think, 4 powerful colorless energies. And it looks like he is marking down that he used those Archeops. Again, I do like using things like coins or markers like that in order to show that you've used those abilities already. Looks like he's just deciding to power up the Lugia and not going for the Regigigas, which I think is probably more optimal. The question is, though, how is he going to move this Regigigas? Does he have a double turbo in hand to hard retreat? And he does. So he's going to detach both the twin and the double turbo in order to hard retreat this Regigigas for its 4 energy retreat cost in order to go in with this Lugia V-Star that now has a V-Guard energy on it as well. It's going to be able to one-shot this Arceus And then on a following turn, he's just going to hope to get another powerful energy and a choice belt and a path to the peak in order to one-shot Duraludon and effectively win the game. And even if he can't do that, as long as Grant doesn't get the big Parasol, he can always charge up an Evital as well. He likely has one double turbo left, because as you can see, he is playing the twin energy because he's playing the Regigigas. So usually the list like that will play one twin and two double turbo. The twin unfortunately does not work very well for the Lugia, but it does work for all of the other attackers without giving that 20 damage downside. Looks like we do see an Ultra Ball here. He's going to discard Metal and Boss's Orders to get a second Duraludon and a Raihan as well to start charging that thing up. So we're going to want to see an attach for turn from him here too, just in case this first Duraludon VMAX comes down. He'll be able to have another one powered up on this next incoming turn. Also important to note, he never got to use Starbirth because his only Arceus in play did get destroyed. Absolutely obliterated. Wiped off the face of the earth here. Hashtag where is your god now? Oh, in the discard pile. Cool. Alright, and just hits for 220 and passes. I mean, that's pretty much all that you can hope for Grant. The only thing is he'd want that big Parasol down just in case. Because if John can get to the Evital this turn, he could just hard retreat that Lugia and blow up the Duraludon. It looks like John, he may not have that great of a hand, so I'm not sure if that's something he'll be able to do. So let's see if there's even... I forgot what was in the prize cards. I think there was a powerful colorless energy. Oh no, I guess I was wrong. There is a powerful colorless energy left in his deck. So he can always charge up the Lugia with that and then hope to get the Choice Belt and the Path to the Peak. And then that will do it. He will be able to take the knockout with that. Looks like we're going to go with double capture onto the Regigigas. Which again, with the Choice Belt, we'll be able to hit 330 to a Regigigas under Path. So, to a Duraludon under Path. So Quick Ball, discarding the Marnie. He's going to get that Evital down. Yeah, so I don't know. It's a bit iffy. I think it might have been good to Quick Ball for that Evital first, and then hard retreat into it, and then use both Archeops to charge it up. But if there's not that other double turbo in there, it may have been prized. It looks like it is in the deck, so it is perfectly, it would have been perfectly fine for John to be able to power up the Evital this turn and one-shot that Duraludon. Grant did not get a hard energy attachment to this bench Duraludon, so even if it does evolve on the incoming turn, unless he has an additional Raihan, he won't be able to attack with any Duraludon VMAXs going into the next turn if you one-shot that. So I feel that, oh, and he's just going for the boss's orders. Okay, then this is perfectly fine. That way you can conserve your resources. You don't have to retreat the Lugia at all. And you have options to both knock out with the active Lugia, since you have the 4 powerful energies, or the Evital that's on your bench. So you have double threats going. Let's see, we do see Marnie and Path in his hand. So he will be able to potentially knock out this Duraludon this incoming turn. Grant 100% needs to see his big Parasol now. If he does not see it, the game is won for John, with only about a minute and a half left on the clock. Looks like we are seeing an Eldegoss that's going to come out. That's really scary to play, because if you put that down, then John only needs really a boss's orders. But either way, looks like we are going to go for the charge up on the Evital and just win the game. They're deciding whether they want a handshake or fist bump. It's fist bump now. Now with the COVID rules. But yeah, John, you can see he was sweating that match a little bit. That is a very difficult matchup to maneuver. But again, both players played it perfectly. There's really no room for error there. So yeah, guys, remember, again, comment, like, subscribe if you want to see more like this. We are going to have round 15 coming up as well, and all the way through the finals. So we will see you guys then.